everyone, it's Tambarambaa here again and welcome to my channel today. Today I'm doing another bright and bold art by Marlene journal page, and it's featuring these three little girls which are a bit cute. So I'm using my perfect size journal, and I grabbed out a couple of pages. They're actually the reverses of some other pages that I've done. So I just sort of line them up so that they're, so the holes for the binder are in the actually in the right place. And lately I've been challenging myself to use some reds and oranges because they don't appear much in my work. So for this one I started with red, which is ho ho ho, and I popped a bit in three places across my page. Now for this one I'm really thinking about some white space, so I don't want to cover all of the background. I know I'm going to add some sort of die cuts and stuff for some focal points, but I also want to keep a little bit of white space. So what I've done is I've come in with some red, and then I grabbed a stencil by the Crafters Workshop that Marlene designed, and I popped that down in a couple of spots and wiped with a wet baby wipe to remove some of that paint. And then I just continued on with some orange, which is hot curry, and some pink, which is Ballet, and yellow, which is happy. And I just kind of filled in that section across the page, just with my finger, just spreading the paint a little bit. So now what I'm doing is with the same stencil, I'm coming in with the colours again, but this time using a makeup sponge. So I'm bringing the colour, so for example I put some of the floral over the orange bit and then bring that colour out using sponging. So I'm doing that on each of the colours, so it's just so you don't get that definite line in the paint. It actually blends that paint through. So I've done that with red and some orange and some yellow, and then I'm actually, that little floral mask is actually from the advent calendar last year, so I've added that in as well because it just went so well with that stencil from the Crafters Workshop. Okay, so now once you've done that, it sort of blends out the edges, but it does leave some big blobs of paint in the center. So to sort of counteract that, I just come in with a bit of white paint, which is the lace, and pop it over the top of those larger patches, and then just using a wet baby wipe, and that stencil again, I come in and remove some of it. So you'll see that it just leaves a little bit of pattern rather than looking like there's blobs of paint. Now at this stage my page is really warm colours, and I tend to go for your blues and your greens over the warm colours, so I couldn't help myself. I had to add in a bit of aqua, which is the Mermaid, and just added that in a few different spots across the page. Not too much, just little hints of it. So now I'm drying the whole thing off. At this stage it still looks a little bit like a hot mess, but we're going to come in with some other pieces now. So this is the grab the extra large golden oldie collector's book. So much in there. And what I did first was I grabbed three girls' heads. So I love how Marlene actually just gives you bits of characters, so you can then create your own, and you can give them bodies and legs and all sorts. So I've decided to give them all just sort of like dress bodies. So I grabbed the Arty paper pad from Sofishticated, and just I had a little bit of scrap paper left from another project, so I grabbed that out, and it was the perfect colours. It had a little bit of the blue floral, so it worked perfectly. So I just kind of just made a dress using a lead pencil, and then I cut that out. And then I used that one as a template to create two smaller dresses. So I wanted my characters to be at different heights. So I've just used it as a mask and traced it onto one of the sheets from the paper pad, just areas that I liked and thought would go well with my page. So once I'm sort of happy where I think I'll want them, it's time to continue working on that background. So I grabbed the heart stamp that comes from the Love stamp set, and just using some black archival ink, I am just stamping it in a line along my page. So I kind of put the girls back just so I roughly knew where they went, and because there's no need to stamp behind them because they're going to get covered up. So I just want to create sort of a trail across the page, and I also filled it in with that sort of funky love heart from the writing set as well. Okay, so now it's time to stick my girls down. So I'm using the Marlene glue and just popping the glue on the back and then gluing them on. So I'm overlapping them on top of each other a little bit. And you'll notice that the girls have got floating heads, so the heads aren't yet joined. So I need to come in and join those heads. So for that I use sand, which is another paint colour. And excuse my head right in the way, but for this bit I need to concentrate. So I'm just adding little necks, and then I will outline them in pen. And I will actually outline around the girls as well. So while the paint is drying, I have come in and added pink into the hearts, and I actually don't really like that, so I think right at the end I changed that. But this is where I'm adding in sort of the definition around the neck, around the dresses, and a little bit around the head, just so they all look like one piece, so the characters all come together. So then I find a little flower from the Golden Oldie book and decide to pop that in the one at the front's hair and glue that on. And then I'm using a Stabilo oil pencil. So this is like a watercolor pencil, so it will activate once water hits it. So it's really great for creating shadows. So I'm just kind of putting it around the edges of the girls and where there might be some shadows, trying to get the shadows more on one side, and then just coming in with a wet paintbrush just to smudge that out a bit. And it really makes the girls sort of pop forward off of the page. So just trimming off the bit of the dress that was overhanging there. And then I do another layer of paint on the hearts, but I still don't like it. And now I just come in with a little bit of mark making on the girls. So a few dots on the dresses, a few more shadows around their hairlines and things like that. And then using a white pen, just adding a little bit of highlight. So you just get that contrast between the shadows and the highlights. Now just creating little pink cheeks on that girl. So just a tiny little bit of a paint pen and then a bit of water just to soften it. So now I just made some little arms on the girls, and I'm not sure about the larger girl here, so that's when I decide maybe I'll cover that up. So what I come in with now is some of the Fauna and Flora die cuts. I love those branches that are in there, and I particularly love them in black. So I just cut a few out in the black, and then I find a few little bits, little flowers in the Golden Oldie book, and I grab those out and I put a few on. I put some on some and some leave some without them, and then I just sort of position them and play around where I think I might want them. And because they're, you know, a full branch, you can adjust them, so you can make them sit higher and lower. So I want that. I want some different sizings in there. So the easiest way I find to stick these on is actually just using a gel medium. So I always put a little bit behind the piece and then a little bit over the top, and that just sticks them on really well and makes it a much simpler process. So now it's time to change those pink hearts, and I decided to change them into blue hearts. So I come in with the Mermaid, which is the aqua, and I will do a couple of coats, but I'll just start with the first coat, and I think that looks much better. So I'm happy with that. So now dry it all off, which is important when you're using the gel medium because it does take a little while to dry, so you might want your heat gun at that stage. And then I come in with the stamps called Text Play, and it's got lots of lovely little quotes and bits in it, but there's a couple of big ones, and one of them is Smile. So I'll pop it in the top left hand corner just using some archival ink and a acrylic block. And then I also come in with, there's a little heart stamp in there as well, so I just pop that, running it through that line that I'd created earlier. And then I add some journaling just with a black paint pen. So I've actually written smile, cheer each other on, uplift, empower and celebrate each other, unite together and be the change. And be the change is actually one of the quotes on the stamp set, so I actually stamped that bit on. So I guess I was thinking about the three girls and supporting each other, so I just felt like that journaling was appropriate. So now I've come in with a bit of lace and just a little brush and just making some marks. So I always add white back into my pages, and because this one has some white space, I just want to bring that white back in again to the background as well. And I think I missed a step. So in the writing stamp, which is where that funky heart comes from, there is actually a script stamp, and I have popped that little hints of that around the edge of my page. So now I'm just coming in with my pens, and I'm just deepening up some of the stamping. So where I've painted over the top with the blue, it just needs a freshen up. So I've just gone around a few of the hearts, and I also used a little bit of white pen just to fill in a few of the tiny little dots that are in the page that come from one of the stamps that I use, the heart stamp. Okay, so then it's time to add a little border to the edge of my work. So this really frames it and pulls it all together. So for this I just used a black paint pen, and I've just simply run it around the edge. And just be careful not to do the inside edges. So you want it to look like one whole piece and not two separate pieces. And that is pretty much it. Ta-da! All finished. So just trim up around the edge, and I'll leave you with a few close-ups. But I'll be back again soon with a bit more of my work, and I'll look forward to seeing you then. So I'd love you to subscribe or leave a comment so that I know you were here. Thanks very much, and bye for now.